Well, welcome to this episode, the Travels with Maury Summer 2024 review.
One summer down.
Oh my gosh, it is hard to believe that we have been on the road for more than 5 months now. So this this trip started the end of April, and we managed to get through a lot of stuff here. So this is the 2024 summer at a glance. We averaged 584 kilometers a week, total of over almost 13,500 K, which was pretty crazy. And at the beginning of this trip, I was a little worried about price of gas. We've actually been able to keep on budget with our gas, but it was really variable.
Thankfully, you have Gas Buddy.
Yeah, the Gas Buddy app has been very, very helpful to find the least expensive. Even with that, the highest that we paid so far this summer was $1.90 a liter. And guess where that was?
BC.
In BC, of course. Yeah, and the
So
lowest.
it was in Alberta.
Yeah, the lowest we paid was $1.29 a liter. But that was, I have to put a little bit of a proviso on that because I had a 30-cent a liter discount on that one. It was just one of those weird deals that we got. So we ended up staying in 38 unique locations, 17 Alberta, 21 in BC. And we did spend 1 week in the U.S. early on in this. We came down for Lisa Peterson's book launch. And so, but we did not include that trip, that little week in the review. That'll come up later when we start doing stuff with the U.S. Now, we did a review, and to keep this fair, we did this independently. So we put all of the Alberta campsites in one spreadsheet, and then all the BC sites in another spreadsheet. And then these are the things that we went through and looked at. So when you think about scenery, what are we talking about?
I think of when you look out the windows or step out the doors, what do you see?
Right.
Or even if you have to walk a bit, what do you see?
Right. Amenities, we looked at this, not only what was available in the campground, but what was available close by.
Yeah.
So if you look at, for example, something that is like the Okotoks Lions campground, it is nestled in a little valley, but you can walk, what was it, about 15 minutes to a major grocery store?
Yeah.
You know, so there were a lot of amenities that were close by. When we get into a campground that has like no water, no power, no sewer, and you are
like Mount 7.
Yeah.
At the top of a mountain.
You're a good long distance from anything. You know, we looked at that as amenities. Nothing close by. Price, this is just what we felt was value for the dollar. We're not looking at the cheapest campground, but when we look at, you know, what are we getting for the money we're spending, that's what we were looking at.
Yeah.
For hosts.
Hosts. Well, that was a kind of a tricky one for me because many of our campgrounds didn't have hosts. So it had to include how was it to
get a hold of them.
Get a hold of them, book, or even just show up. What was their attitude, or even how easy their site was to manage.
Yeah, navigate. Site access, sites, we actually did 4 things to do with the site. So the access, how easy was it to get into the campground? How easy was it to back into or drive into a spot? When we look at level, I mean, how much trouble were we? We had some of them where we not only had to use our leveling system, but also had to throw a big 2-inch board under things just to get it. And then when you'd finally get it level side to side, we ran out of jack space to get it level front to back.
Yeah.
And others you would pull in, like the one that we're in today. I mean, the leveling. We had to go up a 1/2 inch on one side, and it was already level front to back. It was like, okay,
he unhitched, and I said, it's perfect.
We're done, So that's what level site size, and this is interesting because we love camping in things like the national parks, and so many of them were built before a 30-foot RV was even a thing. And
Yeah.
so we've really discovered a huge discrepancy between what one campground will call a large site versus what another one might call a small site. Some of these small sites were like, wow, you could put 2 rigs our size in here. And others, this is like, well, this is an extra big site. And it's like, we can't even get in there. We had a couple of places where we had to go find a different site because we could not get in to what they classified as a good sized site.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that one, it was 13 feet between 2 large trees and bushes. Yeah.
Overhead hazards, this is something that we've really had to put on our list because we actually had one campground. The overhead trees were so much that we actually, as we talked about in an earlier video, ripped our weather station off the top of our rig, which we have now got to the point where I take it down every trip. Yeah. I'm not leaving it anymore because we've had several sites where, the trees are just really in the way.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a tunnel of trees. It could be just one tree, have one limb.
Yeah.
It takes it off. And actually that was the case in that one campground. Right. It was just every so often there was a tree and there was just a heavier limb.
Mm-hmm. Campsite safety, you want to talk about that?
How safe do we feel? We had one campground, we'll talk about it, that made me feel really unsafe right at the get-go because they say lock everything up because there's been theft. And this is a campground that wasn't like next door to a town where you think there would be a lot more safety issues.
Yeah, so people are apparently driving out. We locked everything up all the time. So the safety is just, how do you feel? How does the campground make you feel? Just the overall. But now getting into that, we also put in a category that we just called feel.
Yeah.
And that was like, just how do you feel when you get up in the morning, you walk out? There's some campsites we went to, and after 3 or 4 days, we said, man, we could have just spent a month here.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily, I know there's some people that choose not to camp or stay in campgrounds or RV parks that have full-time or seasonal people.
Right.
We were in one. It was kind of run down, but the feel was really good.
Yeah. You felt welcome. That also had a lot to do with that one with the hosts. They just sort of rolled out the red carpet and made you feel like you were a person.
And other campers, how do they feel?
Yeah. And this is an odd one, but all we did, if they charged for dogs, we took 5 points off their total amount of points. We didn't have a lot. I think we had a total of maybe 5 or 4 the entire summer that charged for dogs. Personally, I just don't agree with it. You've had a problem with a dog owner that didn't clean up after the dog, and now from this point forward, everybody's going to be punished and have to pay $5 per day for every dog. Now some of them were cheap. It was $2 a day. Some were $5 a day.
5 is pretty steep.
Yeah.
Especially if you're already paying like $35, $40 a night.
Yeah.
That really ups it. And if you go to that campground and there's dogs barking, like do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so just enforce your rules. You don't need to be, passing this on to everybody, because I don't think it's to me personally, it's just a money grab. So
yeah, they could do the same with cats.
Yeah. So all of these things that you see, each of us rated each campground based on this on a 10-point scale, except for the dog thing. If they charged for dogs, all we did was take 5 points off of the final.
Yeah.
So not included in this list are rest stops, parking lots, times that we were staying with family, and the very short trip that we did down to the U.S. in the spring. We didn't include these. We just wanted to focus on what our goal for this year, which was Alberta, BC. Yes,
and just to the caveat with the family, you would have gotten full marks.
They would have, yeah. The hosts were great. The food was great.
The dogs were great.
Everything was great.
We ended up with extra dog hair in the rig,
which was amazing.
Loved it.
All right, well, let's get in and take a look, starting off with Alberta. So our Alberta campgrounds, notice that we really did spread this out from kind of central to southern fairly equally throughout this trip. So we had 17 total camping trips in Alberta, 16 unique locations. We stayed at 2 different campgrounds in the Spruce Grove area, and we stayed at 2 different campgrounds in the Okotoks area. And we were a total of 99 days camping in Alberta, which went by really fast. I didn't think it was 99 days until I went through and counted them up, and that's what it was.
And none of those 99 days included camping in our house's backyard or the alleyway, because we weren't allowed to.
Yep. So when we looked at the ratings for this thing, so this is where we ended up. So I've highlighted here the top 5 for each of us. And this was the order that we went. So the 16 different campsites, we started in Dinosaur Provincial Park. And then, after a little while, we were in BC for a little while, and we came back to Alberta. And we ended up at under 8 Flags in Milk River. And when we looked at this was our rating. So I scored, for example, under 8 Flags as my number 2. You scored it as your number 1. So the difference was 1 point.
Yeah.
So when we look at our top 5, I ended up with River's Edge in Fort Macleod, and under 8 Flags, Dinosaur Provincial Park, Glowing Embers in Atchison, which is just outside of Spruce Grove, and Lions Campground in Edson. And our top 5s were pretty close. You ended up with under 8 Flags as your number 1. Lions Campground at Edson is number 2.
Which surprised me.
Yeah. River's Edge in Fort Macleod is number 3. The Lions Campground in Okotoks, which we stayed at twice this summer, by the way, as your number 4. And Wabamun Provincial Park as number 5. So we had some that were really far off. Like my number 4 and your number 12 was Glowing Embers in Atchison. I had to wonder whether this was health issues or what it was that was causing this discrepancy, but really that's the nice thing about independent reviews.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you go through, you'll probably find out why Glowing Embers kind of got trashed.
For you, yeah.
For me.
Yeah. I really liked it. And again, it was just because it was really close to amenities. It got, really high marks for me on that. So I guess we can just talk a little bit about each of these. When we get to our combined ratings, we can go through and take a look at what these look like. So when we combined our ratings and we said, okay, here's our top list of Alberta campgrounds with a combined rating under 8 Flags and Milk River, came out at number 1 between the two of us. What did you think about that place, and why is this rated so high?
Oh, why? What a feel. It's next to the Milk River.
The river itself.
Yeah.
And it's also right next to Milk River, the town.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's near the highway. It has a train going by, but not too close. It has a wonderful tourist information center where the dog can run loose.
Yeah.
It was just in beautiful sunsets.
Yeah.
It was just, and the feel in the town was good.
And the host was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, he met us when we came in, came over to make sure we had everything we needed, came by when I was back in the trailer gave us some hints and tips. And yeah, I mean, it's just like, here's a red carpet, come on in. Our number 2, River's Edge in Fort Macleod, again, from a combined total of our ratings. I really like this place. River's Edge is right on the Old Man River. And again, similar thing. The feel was amazing.
Yeah.
Amenities, I mean, you're not too far from Fort Macleod if we needed to go into town.
You even close enough to bike.
Yeah. But the camp host here, she was so absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Came around every single day just to check to see what you were up to, if you needed anything missing, anything that needs to be fixed. She's really gone out of her way to improve the site, new washrooms, and just a really friendly place. And everybody that we met there, the other campers, all really friendly. Everybody was just easy to talk to. So yeah, it was just a good feel place. Number 3 on our list, Lions Campground in Edson. Now this was interesting because we were only there for the one night. We were intending to be there for a little bit longer, but something came up. And when I called them and said, look, something's last minute and we're going to be delayed by a couple of days to get there, they just said, don't worry about it, no issue. And again, when we got there, they were concerned about how we were doing. Is everything okay now that you're back on? So even though we were only there for the one day, it was a really nice day.
What impressed me was, okay, we have you booked for Site 17, but, we have a better site.
Yeah.
And it's more level. So they put us, 17 was out in the middle of the bald prairie.
Yeah.
Part of a loop. And the other one was within trees and flat and calm.
And close enough that I could run my water hose over to fill up our fresh water tank.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I also liked is, I don't know, I think we were maybe 45, 50 meters away from the beginning of a trail.
Yeah.
And Maury and I just loved that trail. It was so nice just to get in and walk around.
Yeah. I was still recovering, so
yeah.
I can make it to the bathroom and back.
Dinosaur Provincial Park ended up number 4, and this was weird because I rated that quite a bit higher than you did. But it was, I love the scenery. It got full marks for me for scenery, and as much as I was really struggling being off-grid in that place, I have to admit that it was a good way to start the trip by just shutting down and putting the devices away. The only way we could get cell service at Dinosaur Provincial Park was to go climb up the top of a massive hill, which worked out because Maury loves hills. And so now rounding out our top 5 is Lions Campground in Okotoks. We stayed there twice this summer. We liked it so much the first time we went back and kind of concluded our Alberta portion of this by staying at that place twice. Your thoughts on that?
I like it because it's close to amenities. I think my favorite part is taking the dog for a walk in the morning and seeing the deer.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, the path is right next to the river.
And the deer are there, and there's paths all over the place. And and we got to watch the rubber duck.
The rubber duck race, for charity. I'm going to skip down and just do the last 3 on our list and explain a little bit about what happened there. The ones in the middle from 6 to 13, a lot of provincial parks, nice, good places. Many of them we would go back to again, like Pawtucket and Drayton Valley. I would certainly go back there again.
Yes.
Glowing Embers would certainly go back there again. You wouldn't, eh? You didn't like that one?
No, the scenery got trashed because we were next to the fence of the storage.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's so far from anything.
Yeah. Well, there was an Esso station that was, you're right, 15 minutes away, and you had to wait for the train to cross. So, okay, I get where you're at.
And whereas Diamond Grove, I could bike to our grandkids and there. And I was sick, ill at the Glowing Embers, and it's a half-hour drive to the hospital or the health center in Stony Plain.
Yeah.
So
the ones on our bottom of our list, and I have to really understand that we didn't rate Old MacDonald Resort very high, but why? Because it is really, really intended for families, and as a couple of senior citizens, if we didn't have the grandkids there when we were there, we would not have had near as much fun.
Yeah, their site got low marks for me because it was tight and
a tree, and I actually couldn't even get into the site. I asked a guy that was parked across the way, who's a professional truck driver, if he could actually park my rig for me, and so that was a little bit weird.
He gave us some tips. I think that was because where we had been at number 15.
Yeah.
It really had spooked us. I think we went in and saw the tree, and I, for myself, even though I wasn't backing it in, kind of like a panic.
Right.
That there's a small tree and a large, like oak crab.
Yeah. Wyndham Carsland, until the province decides to go in and remeasure all of those sites, I would not go back there. It was so hard to get into sites, so many of them. Like, there's no way you're getting in there with anything but a tent trailer. Narrow roads, tight sites, big trees. We drove around. We were booked in a site that we couldn't get into.
In a loop.
Yeah, so we ended up driving all over the place. Finally found a spot that we could get in. Phoned them, and they were very nice about just changing us into this other site, and thankfully it was available.
Yeah.
But, you know, what they're calling a double site should have just been classified as a single. You know, what they're saying is suitable for a 30-foot fifth wheel. Maybe you could get a 20-foot something in there. So these guys really need to take the time to go through and get this thing figured out and remeasured, and then put it on the website so that it's appropriate to the size of rigs. They do have a C loop, which if we would have figured out.
That was first come, first serve. And there was, if you have a big rig, 30 feet or more,
Yeah.
you'd fit plenty of sites to find
Right.
that you could fit. And still close to the river and amenities.
Coming in dead last on our list was Riverbend Campground in Okotoks. Now,
Okay. That was the unsafe one.
it didn't feel safe. And
That was the one that said, lock, they had a sign, lock up your things because there have been thefts. Now, this is not a place that's that close. You have to drive to Okotoks.
Yeah.
What is in there, though, are a bunch of seasonal and possibly full-time people, and they're not being held accountable.
Yeah, the rules aren't being
They have
enforced.
all these rules, and they're running rickshaw.
Yeah,
so
it seems
we could get slammed for having clutter around the campsite, but they don't.
Yeah. So, I got really frustrated with the number of golf carts tearing around. It seemed that you needed anywhere from 1 to 3 golf carts in your possession if you were going to be there. Not paying attention to speed limits. I had people that would be driving past me and smoking and blowing smoke in my face as they drove by.
And drinking.
Open cans of alcohol driving by. My favorite was the couple that was driving. They had a guy on the back of the golf cart, and he's holding on to one of those little hand wagons, and they're doing 20K down the road. This wagon is doing this behind them, and you got to jump out of the way. I loved your story. You were out walking Maury, and some guy decides to just stop and take a whiz in the bush.
Well, he was coming down a path that was visible from the road, and he stopped and turned. Now he's like from
an outhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of just rolled my eyes, and his wife said something. I can't remember what she said.
She said dogs pee in the woods.
Dogs pee in the woods. And I go, okay, I couldn't let it go. I said, so your husband's a dog?
Yeah.
And I didn't stop. I just kept going. And then I guess she told him, and he yells, calling me a Karen. I could have turned and said, no, you're the entitled person, thinking that you could pee on a public path in front of everyone.
Yeah.
That close to an outhouse. So
it really just came down to they've got rules that are not being enforced. People are not being held accountable. We didn't feel safe. The casual, the one to 2 night people, we talked to a number of them. We're all kind of clustered in a little area. And the crazy thing is by day 2, everybody that I'm talking to that's there on a short term is saying the same thing. Like, how do you feel about this place? Would you ever come back? And every single person said, no, I just don't feel good.
No.
Now, to be fair, I'm hoping that some of the review things that we sent privately, we did not post any of our stuff until now, is going to hopefully help these guys see that they need to make some changes. And my suggestion, if you're making that much money off of your long-term, seasonal, full-time people, then just turn your entire campground into that, and just let them run roughshod and do their own things.
On there, they did have some positives. The washroom, the washrooms were clean. The laundry was clean. A little expensive.
Yeah.
But
and the charge for guests.
Oh, yeah, that's the one that really ticked us off.
That was really annoying. The only place out of all the entire summer the only place we found that charges for guests.
What is it, $1 each?
It was $1 for the car and $1 for each adult.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's not a huge amount of money, but it's the principle. It's like, hey, you want to come out and join us?
So
You know,
this is
down here.
another one of those things that they had trouble with guests. Well, I don't. Well, then enforce it.
Yeah, find a way to solve it.
Yeah.
All right, we're taking up a lot of time here. Let's move on and take a little look. So, BC campgrounds. Boy, we really spent a lot of time on the Yellowhead, didn't we?
Well, we back and forth.
Yeah, it seemed like we stopped a lot there. And then we did the coastal, or not coastal, sorry, the mountain range. We stayed a lot of place in the mountains.
Central and southern.
And then down in the south. And so this was all we did for BC, 21 different places, 67 days. Oh my gosh, we crammed in a lot in 2 months. And we had 3 separate times that we stayed with your family.
Yeah, and if we didn't have to go back to Alberta, we would have spent more time out by the Prince Rupert area.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an area that we fell in love with so much that there's no question we're going to be going back.
And how do you... Kinnickinnick?
Yeah, Kinnickinnick. Yeah, really
Yes.
like that place out in Port Edward.
Yeah, it's 30 minutes south of Prince Rupert. Absolutely amazing. Okay, the site wasn't quite level,
Yeah.
but it was...
It was carved into the side of the mountain. Let's give it a
yeah,
break.
but the hosts were tremendous.
Oh, man,
the
they were just
laundry
so good.
was good.
Yeah.
Good price.
Everything was
A
just
lot of place to wander.
full amenities. I mean, it
Yeah,
was,
across the street was this gas station
Yeah.
that had a star, and I couldn't believe the prices. Like usually those ones are really expensive, but they weren't
it was
gouging.
really good. So when we look at this again in this particular place, this one we were a little bit further apart on stuff. When we look at yours, Kootenay National Park was your number 1, but it was my number 10, which is I found really strange.
Because we both liked it.
Quezon Campground, that was your number 2. White Swan RV in Fraser Lake was your number 3. The Cheam Fishing Village outside of Agassiz was your number 4, and Smithers Municipal your number 5. We were very close to our numbers on Quezon. That was my number 1. And my number 2 was Smithers Municipal, so that was also both in our top 5. The KOA in Cranbrook, my number 3, down to White Swan RV, number 4, and my number 5 was Canoe River in Valemont. So some real discrepancies here. I'm giving something a 3, you're giving it a 12, my 5, you're 11. So we really did have some things that were quite a
I
ways apart.
sometimes wonder if I changed my criteria for each category because I'm surprised that Kinnickinnick was so low and Ferry Island was low.
Yeah.
And, well, yeah, I was just surprised.
Yeah.
Like, we both loved LaSalle Lakes,
Yeah.
but it scored low on the amenities.
Yeah, and the trees, the overhead.
Yeah.
You know, Ferry Island, same thing. The trees, the overhead. Kinnickinnick, the trees, hard to get into the site. Not level. I mean, so there's a few things that we sort of need to put a proviso on here that even though we may not have scored them as high as we think we should when we see this chart, I would go back to Kinnickinnick in a heartbeat.
I find it's interesting. Mount 7. This is the top of
All right, number 1.
This is the top of the hill.
Number 1 on view. Oh, you could not get a view nicer than the Mount 7 recreational area.
Got trashed on everything else.
Okay, let's just talk for a second about that. Mount 7 was suggested to us to go up to by Libby's nephew.
And a proviso for him and the person at the visitor center. I failed to mention that we have a 30-foot fifth wheel.
Yeah. I had to have the truck in 4-wheel drive. It is a 13.5 kilometer drive from the highway to the top of the mountain. It is very steep, sometimes 12% grade, switchback all the way up the side of this mountain. It took us just shy of 2 hours to drive 13K to the top of this hill. Potholes, the road is just trashed. So we finally get up to the top, And then you see the view, and you go, okay, well, this was absolutely worth it. But we only stayed a couple of days and then realized we have to go. It's going to be tough to get down.
We didn't have great weather, so we weren't getting the solar. Plus, it was coming up to the last weekend that I thought would be the best for mountain, because it's mountain biking and motorcycles, jeeps, and jumping off the side of a mountain.
Paragliding.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a hill that they're jumping off.
So we got there, I think, Thursday or Wednesday.
We got there Wednesday. We left for Friday morning.
Friday morning, I said, okay, we'll leave Friday so that we will miss all the traffic coming up.
Yeah.
Because my nephew said that people will start coming up Friday after work.
But also Friday morning we got up and it was snowing.
We were going to leave around noon, and he said it's snowing. Okay, we're going.
Yeah, so we packed up and left.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing place, but it just didn't work out. Another one that didn't get as high as I thought it should have was Glacier National Park.
Yeah.
You know,
we loved it.
I scored 9, you scored it an 8, but place.
It lost on, once again, we have a 30-foot fifth wheel plus a long box truck.
Yeah.
We barely fit.
Yeah.
I think the only reason we weren't out in the middle is on a curve, and it was beside the wood pile and the water and the washrooms.
Yeah.
And like we put our steps down, and we had like a foot before the bushes started.
And this is one of the places where on the front to back leveling, we ran out of level height.
Yeah.
Like
so
we were kind of parked on a hill.
Yeah.
The rig was right at the very back, just inches away from a big boulder, and the front of the truck was actually hanging out.
You kind of had to
in the front. So yeah, the sights were tight. They were small, but my gosh.
If I said if I go back there, I want a van.
Yeah.
Because even some shorter Class C's had trouble. Like they were right at the front end.
Right. When we look at our combined, this is what we ended up with. Quezon at number 1, White Swan RV in Fraser Lake at number 2, Smithers Municipal at number 3, Kootenay National Park at number 4. That was a really beautiful place.
Oh.
And Beaverview RV in McBride at number 5. Now, Quezon, when I saw this at our combined and thought, well, that's number 1. That can't be. I didn't think I liked that much. But now that I saw the list and started thinking about it, I realized I really liked that place.
Yeah.
It was
the sites
really
were
nice.
Good size.
Big. You could get into them. They were all pull through. There's a little historical village that's close by. Amenities were close by. The scenery was great. The river was right there. Maury loved it. Lots of places for hiking and walking.
Chill.
Just everything was wonderful. White Swan RV, this was interesting because it was right on the banks of the Fraser River. It was free to stay there. And so the price was certainly right. It was clean. The people were great.
They had a beach.
Yep.
Like an actual beach.
Smithers, again, this was another place that we really liked. The scenery at that place was phenomenal. Big river that was close by. So I could see where these would happen. Kootenay National Park was another national park that we had never stayed at before. And it was just one of those things that's like, wow, like how have we missed this in the past? It was nice.
Many of the sites, the ones in our loop, were pull through.
Yeah.
If it was vertical or, a horseshoe.
Yeah.
It had flush toilets.
And great rates, yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it's busy. So we talked to some guy, and he said he comes in the off season.
Yeah.
Because during July and August, you can't get in there.
Right. And we were there in the off season for what they classify. Beaverview RV, I'm glad that this one showed up as high as it did. It's a new owner. He's really putting a lot of work into this, but we had to leave early because of the forest fires.
Yeah.
And but the time we were there, which ended up being a grand total of 1 day, we had booked 3. but we had to leave early. I mean, we got up the next morning and you couldn't even breathe.
There's ash all over everything, and I thought, okay, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm pleased with our top 5. I think LaSalle might have been something that could have scored a little bit higher, maybe above Beaverview. We were not completely prepared for being off-grid at that time. We still needed a lot more thinking about how we were going to be handling electricity, electrical needs. But we would go back to LaSalle in a heartbeat. When we looked down at the bottom of the list, same thing. We would go back to Mount 7 in a heartbeat, but not take the trailer. We would put the trailer in an RV park in Golden, and then we would just drive the truck up to the top of the hill. Because coming down Mount 7, that's the other thing we didn't mention, is all of a sudden we could smell the brakes on the truck. We had to pull over and sit for 45 minutes to let the brakes cool down. It was just brutal getting that trailer up and down. I would never, ever, ever recommend anybody take a fifth wheel up there again.
Maybe a 4x4 van.
Yeah. Ferry Island, again, a place that I wouldn't mind going back. I'm surprised that it rated as low as it did. But what we liked about it is that place in Terrace became the launching point for a lot of stuff for us. You know, we left the trailer there, and we went up to the lava fields, for example. You know, we could go shopping. There was lots of things to do in Terrace. So I'm kind of surprised that one ended up as low as it did.
Yeah.
Swan Lake in Vernon, just not my style of camping.
Okay, 16 and 17 deserve those points.
Yeah. Swan Lake, I never felt comfortable there. Never felt like we really were welcome or belonged there. And the sites were skinny. I mean, this is really designed. You buy the lot, you park your RV. And what they have is any site that is up for sale and doesn't currently have a resident on, they open it up for, nightly rental. But it's not really geared for nightly rental.
No. By the time you get your rig in there, it's there for good.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of the destination and park models.
Right.
And I swear there's probably a few prefab homes. But like it said, Swan Lake. But there's 2 Swan Lake. One
on the other side that actually is an RV resort. And then this one. Yeah.
And you have a view of the lake, but it's swamp. It's the swamp part.
Yeah, so you couldn't
can't
really do
swim.
Nothing there. And Juniper Beach, I'm going to be very candid, ended up leaving. We never even stayed the one night. I've never come across more arrogant hosts. They have sites that are set aside for drop-ins. And so we did. We didn't reserve. So we got there. The website and the
parks, BC Parks,
say that they take credit cards. We get there and say, no, we don't. It's cash only. We didn't have enough cash. And she said, we can't take credit cards because we don't have any service down here in the valley. It's true. They didn't have cell service. She was just really,
everyone else paid cash or booked online.
Yeah, booked online, they paid credit cards.
Like, you're stupid. Plus, so I phoned the office of who's running it, and their mailbox was full.
Both numbers.
Twice.
Yeah, and they had 2 numbers. Both of them, the mailbox was full.
And so I emailed saying, this is an important issue right now.
Yeah.
I have never received a thing.
Yeah.
And then she came back hours later.
I paid with a check because it's what I had.
And she said, we don't accept that. I told your husband. Then she springs up e-transfer, but not via email. Yeah,
you couldn't do email transfer. You could only use the phone. Our bank doesn't support phone e-transfers. But here was the other thing, is that they had already said, we don't have any cell service down here. So how are you supposed to use your cell phone to do an e-transfer when you have no cell service? The whole thing was just a joke. And the other thing that they make as a sales pitch is like, oh, we have 2 trains close by. So that, if you're a train fan, oh my gosh, the trains, they're just a bit of a curve on the track. So you've got that loud squeal from the train wheels. And you have trains going by pulling 100 cars.
About every 15, 20
And
minutes.
2 lines. You've got CP and CN rail, you know, one up here and one here. So you're right smack dab in the middle of this. Like I thought, I love the sound of trains, but I don't think I'm even going to get any sleep here.
Now, Juniper Beach, apparently there's a beach and a swimming hole. The only thing I could see is a swamp,
Yeah.
murky water where the river had been, but it got cut off, and the rest was all
was
rocks.
gravel, yeah.
It wasn't even gravel, it was rocks.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a place that, you know, I mean, I'm glad we found it so that we can just say we'll never go back there, you know.
Price was good, but
Yeah.
that's it.
So this is our final ranking. When we look at everything, when we combine our Alberta and our BC campgrounds, our top one, Quezon in BC. Then we have 2 in Alberta under 8 Flags and River's Edge. White Swan in Fraser Lake, another one in Alberta, another one in BC. So pretty evenly split between BC and Alberta for our favorites this year.
You know what I find interesting is Edson rated higher than the Okotoks Lions.
Yeah.
Even though I like, yeah.
We did like the Lions
That's
campground.
why I wonder if I changed my criteria
Thinking about it?
while doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And we already explained why Old MacDonald and Wyndham Carsland were at the bottom. Swan Lake, again, we explained not our style of camping. Riverbend and Juniper Beach, we've
So
explained
the bottom
why.
3 deserve it.
Yeah.
Wyndham is a nice part, but we'd stay in Loop C.
Yeah.
Loop A and B are reserve only.
And Old MacDonald, if you've got kids, if you're going
Or a
in with
family
grandkids
reunion.
or a family reunion,
We'd be there.
that actually would almost rise up to the very top of the list to be number 1. But for a couple of senior citizens, it's like, oh, there's no point for us going back there by ourselves. So it ended up not rating quite as high as we thought it should. So
Yeah.
So anyway, that is our summary of summer 2024. It was a great summer.
Even with the rain.
Yeah, I can't
the
believe how
cold.
much we've seen. It was fun. We did get a lot of rain in the early stages, but we've had some beautiful days.
And we finally got a new air conditioner because we didn't know ours was broken.
Yep. Yeah, we bought the rig. It wasn't working, but apparently it was not even installed correctly. So yeah, it's been fun, and really glad that we've had this chance to be out on the road for this long. We're filming this in very early October. We have crossed the border. We're currently in Idaho on our way down to Utah and then Arizona and New Mexico for the winter. So we'll give you an update on the next phase of our trip a little bit later.
The temperature this week has been like 30,
Yeah, it's been
28 to 30.
It's been a very
It's going
nice
to
week.
start cooling off, but that's okay.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our summer 2024 adventures with Travels with Maury. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us.